Tom Mackenzie stood in his cabin doorway watching his dying cattle. The ranch that once thrived under Sarah's care now crumbled around him. $2 remained in his coffee tinal that separated him from complete ruin. The Wyoming wind carried only the scent of failure and loneliness. Inside the cabin, photographs of Sarah smiled from every surface, her presence both comfort and torment in the suffocating silence. Tom's boots echoed hollow against the wooden floors as he moved through rooms that felt too large and too empty, each corner holding memories that cut deeper than winter wind. The kitchen table, once filled with Sarah's laughter and warm bread, now held only unpaid bills and notices from the bank. He picked up her favorite shawl, still carrying the faint scent of lavender, and pressed it against his weathered face. The isolation had become a living thing, feeding on his grief, until even the simplest tasks felt insurmountable. At dawn, Tom rode among his dying herd, counting losses that mounted like stones in his chest. The cattle moved listlessly through the brown grass, their eyes dull with the same hopelessness that had settled into his bones. Old Blue, his prize bull, stood apart from the others, flanks heaving with each labored breath, and Tom knew the disease spreading through his stock would soon claim them all. The neighboring ranchers had stopped offering help months ago, their own struggles consuming their charity. As he dismounted near the creek bed that had run dry since August, Tom felt the crushing weight of a man who had lost not just his wife, but his purpose in a world that demanded more than he had left to give. Church bells called Sweetwater to Sunday auction. Tom hesitated at his door, knowing the pitying glances that awaited his gaunt frame. But desperate hope pulled him toward town, $2 precious in his pocket. Morning shadows stretched across the valley like promises of change. Before we continue, leave your like, share our story, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. The church buzzed with auction energy quilts, preserves, baskets of plenty. Tom lingered at the back, his grief making others uncomfortable. Pastor Williams announced each item as bids flew freely, $5, $10, amounts that mocked his meager contribution. He clutched his $2, wondering what so little could buy. Near the altar sat a peculiar basket beside a veiled figure in dark clothing. A mystery basket with ... a companion for the evening, the auctioneer faltered. The crowd shifted uncomfortably as bidding opened at 50 cents with no takers. When the price dropped repeatedly, Tom's hand shot up. $2, he called, his voice cutting through stunned silence. The walk to his wagon felt like crossing into another world. The mystery woman moved with quiet grace, her heavy veil marking her as different. Tom helped her onto the seat, noticing gentle strength in her gloved hands. "Thank you, Mr. Mackenzie," she said softly, her voice carrying unexpected authority. At his cabin, Tom wrestled with his choice. $2 had bought responsibility for another soul. She stood in his doorway, fragile yet resolute, and he realized inviting her inside would shatter his careful solitude. "I know it's not much," he gestured at sparse furnishings, but she moved past him purposefully, beginning to transform his emptiness into warmth. That the evening meal emerged from mysterious ingredients, filling his cabin with healing aromas. She worked with veiled efficiency, creating abundance from his meager pantry. When he tasted the food, flavors he'd forgotten existed soothed his throat and chest. "You're not just a companion," he observed quietly, watching her careful movements. As night settled, she moved through his cabin like gentle storm, reorganizing with quiet authority. "My name is Elizabeth," she said by firelight, "but those who know my work call me Liz." The introduction felt precious, and when she asked about his dying cattle, her questions carried the precision of someone with answers. Through his window, Tom showed Liz the pasture of suffering animals. She studied the scene with surprising intensity, her veiled head tilting thoughtfully. "The disease isn't what's killing them," she said with quiet certainty. "It's malnutrition and parasites treatable conditions." Hope stirred in Tom's chest for the first time since Sarah's death. At midnight, Liz stepped onto his porch and lifted her veil. Moonlight revealed smallpox scars mapping her left cheek and neck, survival badges worn with dignity. Her eyes held gentle strength that made scars disappear into larger beauty. "This is why I'll stay, if you'll have me," she said simply. "Broken things can be mended." Tom crossed the threshold into unimaginable possibility. Dawn broke with Liz already moving through Tom's cabin like healing incarnate. Her medical bag, revealed from the basket's false bottom, spread open like hope itself. She studied his account books with the same intensity shown his cattle. "We'll start with sick animals, then address breeding and business," she said with quiet authority. Together they examined each animal, Liz's scarred hands gentle as she diagnosed with veterinary precision. "Lungworm here, mineral deficiency there," she explained, her treatments coming with detailed plans. Tom found himself learning from her expertise, absorbing knowledge that could transform his understanding of ranching. Her touch brought calm to frightened beasts. By noon, they'd established a barn hospital, organizing animals by condition with military precision. Liz worked tirelessly, mixing medicines while teaching Tom each step. "Healing takes time, consistency, and faith," she said, washing her hands. Tom studied her profile, finding beauty in concentration that softened her scarred features. That evening, over another transformed meal, Liz shared fragments of her story: smallpox that took her family and fiancé, medical training pursued in recovery, years of wandering between towns. Tom listened with recognition, then spoke of Sarah honestly for the first time. "We're both carrying ghosts," Liz said softly, her hand touching his. 3 days later, treated cattle showed clear improvement: brighter eyes, returning appetites. Liz stood beside him in the pasture, professional satisfaction evident despite her calm demeanor. "It's working," Tom said, hardly believing his eyes. When he reached to touch her cheek, she leaned into his palm, years of rejection melting away. Under brighter stars, they sat on porch steps, sharing comfortable silence. Recovery surrounded them, cattle, peaceful hearts, opening to unexpected sanctuary. "I never expected this," Tom admitted, voice rough with buried emotion. "You didn't buy my company," Liz replied. "You invested in two broken people making something whole." His heart opened completely under cricket songs and hope-scented air. A month later, Tom's transformed ranch drew suspicious neighbors who questioned Liz's unmarried presence and scarred face. Mrs. Henderson made pointed church comments about improper arrangements while ranchers doubted Tom's sudden expertise. "They're talking," Tom warned. "Let them," Liz replied calmly, continuing her healing work. "We know what we're building." Sheriff Morrison arrived with papers questioning Liz's credentials and legal status. "Folks are concerned about unlicensed practice," he explained uncomfortably. Liz calmly produced certificates from Women's Medical College of Philadelphia, her dignity intact despite the humiliation. Dr. Elizabeth Harper Morrison read with newfound respect. The victory felt hollow acceptance through paper rather than proven healing. That evening, Liz revealed the depth of opposition: anonymous letters questioning her morals, whispers about her appearance, suggestions that Tom's fortune was unnatural. "They can't understand healing comes in unrecognized forms," she said, staring into flames. Tom's protective fury surprised them both. "Then we'll show them through success," he declared with conviction. Their first test came when Mrs. Henderson arrived at dawn, pride swallowed by desperation over her dying cattle. "Please," she begged, "we've lost 12 head." Liz gathered supplies without hesitation. "We'll be there in an hour," she said simply, choosing grace over resentment. Tom watched her transform from wounded outsider to professional healer. Working at the Henderson Ranch, Liz won over the community through competence and compassion. She worked tirelessly for 3 days, her expertise dissolving prejudice like medicine curing infection. Neighbors naturally deferred to her knowledge, asking questions that revealed growing respect. "She's a miracle worker," Henderson told his wife, the same man who'd avoided her face weeks before. On their final evening, Mrs. Henderson approached with tearful apology, and a hand-knitted blue scarf meant not to hide Liz's scars but framed her face with kindness. "I was wrong about you," she said simply. That night, driving home, under celebrating stars, Tom took Liz's hand, their fingers intertwined in perfect trust, partnership evolving into something eternal. Winter arrived, fierce and early, testing their love and rebuilt ranch with storms determined to undo progress. Cattle required constant care as temperatures plummeted and feed dwindled. Liz worked beside Tom through howling nights, shared efforts creating intimacy beyond partnership. "We'll make it," she said during the worst blizzards, worry hidden behind determined beauty. On Christmas Eve, with snow piled to windows, Liz revealed her truths. She'd fallen in love with Tom and their life together, wanting to stay as his wife. "I know these scars make me different," she said steadily. Tom silenced her with a kiss, hands gentle on her face. "You're exactly what I never knew I needed," he whispered. Her scars had become beautiful badges of survival. Their quiet engagement brought genuine community celebration from neighbors who'd learned to see past scars to true value. Women planned a wedding honoring their auction love story, enthusiasm testament to Liz's complete heart victory. "You've shown us healing comes in unexpected forms," Mrs. Henderson said. The greatest gift was Liz's talk of future improvements. Assuming years together, spring brought Eastern investors interested in Tom's revolutionary cattle practices. Expensive suited men studied their healthy herds, while Liz explained breeding strategies and disease prevention. "Remarkable," said the lead investor, surprised to find such knowledge in a scarred Wyoming woman. "These techniques could revolutionize Western farming." Offers flew partnerships, expansions, opportunities for wealth beyond imagination, but success brought dangers as neighbors pressured Tom to share methods while questioning his deserved prosperity. "It's not natural, one man rising so fast," grumbled Henderson despite his own improved ranch. Unknown enemies spread rumors about Liz's incomplete training, dangerous treatments, diseased cattle. "They're afraid," Liz said calmly. "Success challenges assumptions about who deserves fortune." Crisis peaked when Dr. Matthews, a traveling veterinarian with proper male credentials, arrived claiming Liz's unorthodox treatments were potentially harmful. Tom watched in fury as this stranger undermined months of success with nothing but professional jealousy disguised as medical concern. "Show me your failures," Tom challenged. The damning silence revealed Matthews had authority, but Liz had results that spoke louder than diplomas. The Matthews confrontation divided Sweetwater between those who'd experienced Liz's healing and those clinging to conventional prejudices. Tom fought multiple battles defending expertise to officials, protecting ranch from sabotage, supporting Liz through attacks on her existence rights. "Maybe I should leave," she said after vicious rumors. "Then we leave together," Tom said fiercely. "We don't let them win by abandoning everything." The final test came when Old Blue fell critically ill with conditions Matthews declared untreatable, publicly challenging Liz to attempt a cure that would expose her as fraud or kill the animal. Liz examined the dying bull with slightly trembling hands, not from diagnostic uncertainty but from knowing failure would destroy their entire future. "Advanced pneumonia with heart complications," she said calmly. "He needs surgery." Through a long night, testing every skill, Tom assisted in surgery that was part medical procedure, part desperate prayer. Working by lantern light with half the town witnessing, Liz's scarred hands moved with precision that transformed her from outcast to near saint. "Hold him steady," she murmured with absolute concentration. When Old Blue's breathing eased and eyes cleared, the crowd's cheer proclaimed victory beyond one animal's life. Dawn broke with Old Blue standing strong and the community completely transformed in understanding real authority versus genuine healing. Dr. Matthews left quietly. Credentials no match for speaking results. While Liz found herself surrounded by neighbors who'd learned to see miracle workers in unexpected forms. "We saved him," she corrected Tom's praise, "and maybe saved ourselves too." Sunlight painted everything gold, promising prosperity and peace. Their wedding day dawned clear and bright, with the entire community of Sweetwater gathered in the church, where Tom had first spent $2 on faith and received a lifetime of love in return. Liz stood at the altar without veil or shame, her scarred face radiant with joy as Pastor Williams spoke about the miraculous ways God could transform the most unexpected meetings into the deepest blessings. Tom watched his bride with eyes that saw only beauty, not despite her scars but because they told the story of her survival, her strength, her absolute refusal to let suffering make her bitter or cruel. When she spoke her vows in a voice clear enough for everyone to hear, promising to love and heal and build a future worthy of the trust they had discovered in each other, Tom felt his heart expand with gratitude for the providence that had brought them together. The congregation that had once whispered about impropriety now wept openly at the beauty of a love story that had transformed not just two broken people, but an entire community's understanding of what made someone worthy of belonging. As Mr. and Mrs. Mackenzie, they threw themselves into expanding their ranch with innovations that drew visitors from across the territory. Their combined expertise creating prosperity that lifted not just their own family but their entire region. Liz established a veterinary practice that served ranchers from 3 counties, her reputation built on results that spoke louder than any conventional credentials, while Tom implemented breeding programs that produced the healthiest cattle anyone had seen. "Look what you've built," said the territorial governor during his visit to their ranch. Studying herds that represented the future of Western agriculture, from $2 at a church auction to an operation that could change how we think about ranching itself, Tom and Liz exchanged glances heavy with shared memory, both thinking of that desperate night when he had bid on mystery and purchased salvation, when she had lifted her veil and revealed not just her scars but her absolute commitment to healing whatever she encountered. Their first child arrived on a spring morning, when the valley was painted green with new grass and possibility. A daughter whose perfect features would never know the pain of being judged for her appearance, but whose parents would teach her that true beauty came from service, from healing, from love that looked past surface imperfections to the miracle of human connection. Tom held his daughter, while Liz rested, both of them marveling at how the love they had discovered in each other had created this new life that represented hope made manifest. "She's beautiful," Tom whispered, studying the tiny face that combined his strong jaw with Liz's gentle eyes. And Liz smiled with the satisfaction of someone who had learned that beauty came in infinite forms. Outside their window, Old Blue grazed peacefully among cattle whose health testified to the power of knowledge applied with courage, while neighbors worked their own ranches using methods that Liz had shared freely despite years of rejection and suspicion. 5 years after their wedding, Tom and Liz sat on their porch watching their children, 3 now, each one healthy and curious, play among cattle that represented the finest breeding stock in the territory. Their success had drawn attention from agricultural colleges back east, where Liz's techniques were being studied and implemented, her name becoming synonymous with innovative veterinary practices that had revolutionized animal care. "Did you ever imagine it would lead to this?" Tom asked, gesturing at their thriving ranch, their healthy family, their place at the center of a community that now sought their advice on everything from animal husbandry to medical care. Liz traced the scars on her face with one finger, marks that had once made her hide but now seemed like badges of honor earned through survival and service. "I imagined healing," she said thoughtfully, "but I never imagined being healed in return." Their love story had become legend in Sweetwater. The lonely rancher who spent his last $2 on faith, and the scarred woman who taught him that healing worked in both directions. The final confrontation with their past came when a railroad company offered to buy their land for 10 times what Tom had inherited, promising wealth beyond anything he had dreamed when he was counting his last coins. The offer represented security, luxury, the chance to move east, where Liz's medical innovations could reach even larger audiences, but it also meant abandoning the valley where they had discovered love and built their life together. Tom stood in their pasture with the contract in his hands, watching Liz examine a pregnant mare with the same gentle thoroughness she had brought to their first meeting, and realized that some things were worth more than money. "What do you think?" he asked, though he already knew her answer in the way she touched the mare's swollen sides, the way she spoke softly to calm the animal's fears. "I think," Liz said, looking up at him with eyes that held all the wisdom they had earned together, "that home isn't something you can buy or sell. It's something you build through love, service, and the courage to stay when staying gets difficult." Tom tore up the contract without another thought, scattering the pieces to wind that carried them away like the doubts and fears that had once threatened to destroy everything they valued. Their decision to stay became the foundation for establishing the Sweetwater Valley Agricultural Institute, where Liz could train other healers while Tom developed breeding programs that would benefit ranchers across the West. Students arrived from distant territories to learn from the woman whose scars had once made her an outcast but whose knowledge now made her a pioneer in veterinary medicine. "You're creating a legacy," Pastor Williams told them during the Institute's dedication ceremony, his voice filled with the same wonder Tom had felt watching Liz work her first miracle on his dying cattle. But the real legacy lived in their children, who grew up understanding that worth was measured by service rather than appearance, that healing required both knowledge and courage, and that love could transform the most broken circumstances into something beautiful. As Tom watched Liz address her first class of students, her scarred face confident and radiant, he marveled at how far they had traveled from that desperate night, when $2 represented everything he had left to gamble on hope. The new equilibrium they had created extended far beyond their own family. touching the lives of countless animals and people who benefited from healing techniques that had once seemed impossibly radical. Their ranch became a model studied by agricultural departments across the country, while Liz's medical innovations saved lives from California to Montana, proving that knowledge shared freely multiplied exponentially. Tom found satisfaction not just in their prosperity, but in the prosperity they had made possible for others. Neighbors whose herds thrived using methods Liz had developed, students who carried her techniques to distant territories, communities that had learned to value healing over prejudice. "We did it," he said one evening as they watched the sunset paint their valley in colors that spoke of peace and abundance, his arm around the woman who had transformed his understanding of what it meant to love and be loved. Liz leaned into his embrace with the comfortable ease of someone who had found her home, not in a place but in a person. Her scars catching the last light, like silver threads woven through the fabric of a story that had begun with desperation and bloomed into joy. On their 10th wedding anniversary, standing in the church where Tom had made his $2 investment in the impossible, they renewed vows that now carried the weight of a decade's worth of shared triumphs and challenges overcome together. The congregation included not just their Sweetwater neighbors but students, colleagues, and friends from across the territory who had come to honor a love story that had inspired countless others to look beyond surface appearances to the deeper truths of character and commitment. 10 years ago, Pastor Williams said, his voice carrying across a sanctuary filled with people whose lives had been touched by their example. A lonely man spent his last $2 on faith, and a wounded woman revealed her true face to someone brave enough to see her beauty. As Tom and Liz exchanged rings again, their children standing as witnesses to promises that had not only endured but deepened with each passing season. The entire assembly seemed to understand that they were witnessing something rare, a love that had grown stronger through service, deeper through shared purpose, and more beautiful through the simple commitment to healing whatever they encountered together. 20 years after that pivotal church auction, Tom Mackenzie stood in his expanded pastures, watching his grandchildren play among cattle that represented the finest bloodlines in the American West, their laughter mixing with the gentle lowing of animals whose health testified to innovations that had transformed an entire industry. Liz emerged from the veterinary college they had built together, her hair silver now, but her step still sure, her scarred face lined with the kind of wrinkles that came from decades of smiling more than frowning. "The new students are remarkable," she told him, settling beside him on the fence rail they had built to mark the boundary of dreams that had grown far beyond their original scope. "3 of them are women, and none of them seemed to notice my scars." Tom smiled at this evidence of how completely the world had changed, or perhaps how completely they had changed the world. Since the days when Liz's appearance had made her an outcast rather than a celebrated pioneer, their success had rippled outward in ways they never could have anticipated, inspiring countless others to look beyond conventional expectations, to find wisdom in unexpected places, healing in unconventional forms, and love in circumstances that others might have dismissed as impossible. The Mackenzie method of cattle management was taught in agricultural colleges, from Texas to Montana, while Dr. Elizabeth Mackenzie's veterinary innovations had saved millions of animals and established new standards of care that prioritized prevention over treatment, understanding over dominance. "Sometimes I think about that night," Tom said, watching their eldest grandchild help. Liz examined a newborn calf with the same gentle thoroughness that had first captured his attention. $2.37 was all I had left in the world, and I spent everything on a stranger whose face I couldn't even see. Liz laughed, the sound carrying across their valley like music that had grown richer with age, and Tom realized that the best investments were always made with the heart rather than the head, with faith rather than certainty. As evening settled over Sweetwater Valley, painting their ranch in the golden light that had blessed every significant moment of their shared life, Tom and Liz walked hand in hand through pastures that represented not just agricultural success but the triumph of love over loneliness, healing over despair, and hope over the kind of defeat that had once seemed inevitable. Their story had become part of the valley's folklore. The lonely rancher and the scarred healer whose $2 meeting had blossomed into a legacy that touched lives across the American West. But for Tom and Liz, the real miracle lived in the simple daily reality of waking up beside someone who saw beauty where others saw flaws, possibility where others saw limitations, and endless reasons for gratitude where others might see only the ordinary passage of time. "Best $2 I ever spent," Tom said, squeezing Liz's hand as they paused to watch their cattle settle into evening calm, and she squeezed back with the same gentle strength that had been healing broken things, animals, hearts, communities, and souls for more than 2 decades. In the distance, their grandchildren's laughter echoed across a valley that had learned the most important lesson of all, that love, when combined with courage and commitment to healing whatever needs healing, could transform any wilderness into a garden, any stranger into family, and any ending into a beginning filled with hope for tomorrow.